Alrighty. Hey, everyone. My name is Amari, and I will be going over the hydrodynamic impacts on sediment plume and turbidity events in the southern basin of Lake Michigan. First, I'll be going over basically the outline. We're going to go over my about me. Then we're going to do acknowledgments, which will then lead into the introduction and my why and the research questions. Then I will also go over the plume cases that I have picked out and researched. And then we're going to go into conclusions and future questions and resources. So a little bit about me. I'm from Maryland. I'm a rising senior at the University of Maryland Eastern Shore, and I am majoring in environmental science with a concentration in marine biology. Next, I'm going to go over the wonderful people that helped me with this project: Ayumi, Yang, Dr. Ming, Noan, and Sahu. These people helped me with this project, and I would like to thank them. And I also like to thank Margaret and Mary and my other fellows. Now we'll be going over the introduction to this project. Lake Michigan is known to have extensive sediment plumes in its southern basin, and these events are usually captured through satellite imagery. These sediment plumes have a major impact on particle transport, nutrient cycling, and can affect the lower levels of the trophic food web. The goal of this project is to understand how storm events and ice can impact lake surface current, ice cover, and lake bottom stress, and how that affects sediment plume. Now, some of you may be wondering why we are looking into these events, and it's because these events are usually studied in warmer conditions, and that's usually the norm. And so therefore that I would like to do more research in the winter to spring transition, and like to learn more about these sediment plumes and the ice events that affect them. My research questions are, when a sediment plume or turbidity event occurs in winter, how does ice interact with them? And what is the impact of ice on lake currents, and how does that affect sediment suspension? Now we'll be going over the outstanding plume cases through 2018 and 2022. First, I would like to go over the fact that I had to make a very huge spreadsheet that went over, I had to research about 150 sediment plume cases through 2018 to 2024. And with this information, I was able to find the outstanding plume cases that I wanted to go over. Next is the model information. These are hydrodynamic-ice wave models based on RECOM, and they were used to simulate ice conditions in the southern Lake Michigan, and was able to find out the percentage of ice cover. And this model also includes wave dampering percentages. And the next model is also used to calculate total bottom stress due to lake current and wave. And that model was also able to show the lake bottom stress with and without ice. And this is also the triangular mesh that was created for the model, and it was created by Noan at Maryland Eastern Shore. Next, we will go over the plume cases because the models were only able to go from 2018 to 2020. Now, 2018 was a very normal year. As you can see, it's December, I picked December 12th, no, I picked December 10th and December 30th, and the temperatures were ranging from 10 to 20 degrees Fahrenheit, and there wasn't any weather during these days. There was also basically no ice cover as well. And these are the satellite images I got from NASA Worldview that is able to show the plume events. And you can see that the plume events are basically the light blue areas around the edges of the picture. Now we get to the bottom stress and the suspended minerals. The second row for the bottom stress model shows that shows what it would look like with no ice, and then the lower the lower one shows it with ice. So as you can see, it's very normal. There was some sediment suspension, but not much. And there was also basically just a normal amount of sediment plume. But you can see on the 30th, there was an increase in sediment plume, and it shows sediment plume with without ice, and you can also see that the 30th had more than the 10th. Now, 2019 is where things get a little bit more interesting. The 1st of February is where temperatures were below zero, and you can see that there was a weather event. There was also an increase in ice cover, with there being over 80% of ice cover shown by the model. And the 22nd also had low temperatures throughout the day, and in some places you can also see like there was about 20 to 60% of ice cover and a little bit of areas on the coast. Unfortunately, I could not find the sediment suspension map for the for 2019, but we'll just go over the bottom stress. As you can see here, there was an increase in bottom stress that is shown with ice in the bottom row. You can see in the red that there was an increase offshore, and attached along to the ice that was attached to the coast was showed a decrease in bottom stress with a little bit of the blue. And you can also see in 2022, the 22nd, there wasn't much sediment plume. Now, in 2020, there may not have been much ice, but there was an increase in the plume. As you can see here, there's a lot of the sediment plume coming off the coast on the 16th of February and the 7th of March. On the 16th, the temperatures did drop to zero, and there was an ice event, and you can also see that there was about 20% of ice cover along the coast, and you can also see in the 7th that there wasn't really much any ice. Now, as you can see here, there was some ice along the coast, and so this ice is most likely stationary ice, which caused the decrease in sediment bottom stress. And the reason is because sediment ice, ice that's stationary, can cause the waves to dampen, which cause less bottom stress and sediment suspension. But you can also see that there is an increase in sediment an increase in sediment suspension along the coast. Therefore, there was an increase in bottom stress, and this is with ice. On the 7th, you can also see that there's way more sediment suspension along the coast there. And on the no ice row, you can see that the red that represents an increase in sediment suspension and in bottom stress. Now, in conclusion, after looking through the results, we can confirm that ice does have an impact on lake current, and ice can help reduce the impact of lake waves, which then allows there to be a decrease in bottom stress. I also believe that the ice that was not stationary caused there to be an increase in bottom stress. If I were to continue this research, I would look at the different types of sediment to see if different sediment types can be affected by waves, and it can also affect bottom stress, and how does ice interact with these different sediment types. And I also would like to learn more about the storm events associated with these ice events, and see how they also affect sediment plume. These are my resources, and thank you guys for listening. Do you guys have any questions?
Yeah. Great job, Amari. Thank you very much. Do we have questions for Amari?
I'm not very familiar with sediment plumes, but I was curious throughout the course of your presentation why the years 2018 through 2020 were chosen. Was there any like significant difference in sediment plumes or the way the water moved through the Great Lakes along with ice coverage?
So the models kind of cut me off at 2020. So the coding only allowed from 2018 through 2020, and that's why I did my concentration of my research through those years.
Yeah, was that a hand, Anna? Yeah. Okay.
Hi, Amari. Great job. Thank you for telling us about your summer fellowship work. I might have missed it, but can you explain why you were looking at sediment plumes? Like, what's the, I don't know, significance of looking at how sediment plumes are impacted by ice?
So these sediment plumes can have an effect on the ecosystem during winter time, which then can affect lower trophic levels, and can affect some of the organisms there. And that's why another reason why is because there's also not much research on sediment plume during winter time. So that's why we wanted to research about sediment plume.
Mari, I've got a question for you. So you showed us a snapshot of the huge spreadsheet that you had to build at the beginning stage of your project. And so you said there are about 150 cases of plume events that you identified that you included in that spreadsheet. And then I'm gathering from that you selected some specific case studies that you investigated. Is that correct?
Yes.
And so how did you choose, what criteria did you use to choose those particular case studies? Like, what was unique about them?
What was unique about them is because I wanted to basically see a range of results. As you can see, in 2018, there there wasn't much results, but I basically wanted to see what like an average sediment plume would look like compared to some of the extreme cases, like a case where there was over 80% of ice cover, and in another case where there was no ice cover, but there was an increase in sediment suspension. So I just wanted an array of results to really figure out my conclusion.
Great. And how many case studies did you look at total out of that 150?
I looked at about 6.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mhm.
Hi, Amari. This is David. So I think it's really interesting, the idea of using these satellite images to like identify sediment plumes. I was
Mhm.
wondering, are there any like, I guess, restrictions or like assumptions going into that? Like, how do you know that it's sediment suspended from the lake and not like coming in from a river or even like phytoplankton or something?
Well, I think it was a little bit easier because I was looking towards the southern basin, so the coastal areas. It was a lot easier to see the sediment plume there. So that's how I picked it out. But there was times where clouds or cover would cover the area, so basically I couldn't even see anything. So I had to skip over those days when figuring out my plume cases.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting too. So like, do you think that you probably missed like the strongest storming days because the cloud cover was bad, or do you have an impression about that?
Yeah, I do agree. I did put a day where there was significant cloud cover into the code to create the model, and I could see that there was a lot of ice there, but because the ice was covering it, the clouds were covering it, I couldn't really do more research because I couldn't even see what it looked like.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Hmm.
Okay, we've got time for one more question if anyone has one. Okay, seeing none, we're going to thank you very much, Amari. Great job on your presentation.
Thank you, and thank you for listening, guys.